I was told that everyone who works at the TVA was created by the Timekeepers.
That's ridiculous. They're all variants, just like us.
They don't know that.
Alright, to another episode of Potheads Love Movies. I am a pothead and my name is Jay Focus. I'm here to talk once again about Loki. Yeah. Now, I'm going to give you what I think is going to come of this episode later in this episode. If you want to know more about how I think this shit is going to move forward, stick around to the end. Like, comment, and subscribe on the video. I want to talk to you guys and know what you guys think. But you can also, I do want to announce that it's spoilers ahead. So if you don't want to know how this episode turned out, please turn off and then turn it back on once the episode is over so we can do this full breakdown. So, with no further ado, this is Loki, Episode 3, Lamentis. Now, Lamentis equals the word revealing in Latin. So, this refers to the fact that Loki and Lady Loki, aka Sylvie, have revealed things to each other, referring to maybe the death of Loki's quote-unquote mother. So, there are different things that Lamentis reveals to us, and we're gonna dive deep into all of that good shit right here on this episode of Potheads Love Movies. Now, everybody in the TVA is a variant. Yeah, that's something that we find out a little bit later in the episode. And come to find out also is that information refers us back to Mobius and his love for jet skis. Because maybe jet skis were a new thing in the 90s, and since he's drinking Jasta and he loves jet skis, he has to be like a 90s guy. He was, in his peak whenever he died or whenever he became a part of the TVA, Time Variance Authority. He eventually was plucked from his dimension in order to be this Time Variance Authority agent that's so higher ranking than all of the others. Now, this is very important when it comes down to my prediction later in the episode and how I think the entire MCU is going to move forward and how maybe we won't get Kang the Conqueror in this show. So, stick around with me. Fuck with your boy. Once again, let's dive into the episode. Now, we open with Lady Loki, aka Sylvie, opening a TVA agent's mind prior to the reset charges going off. Now, it's just a reference back to the second episode, just filling us in on why the agent was sitting there freaking out and losing her mind, talking about she gave away the information, she gave it away. So that's just a good reference. Keep that in mind. So Lady Loki attempts to take over another guard using her telepathy and mind control enchantress abilities, only to be thwarted by somebody who has a strong mind. Now, we find out a little bit later in the episode that there are certain capabilities that she's just not capable of, and one of those is enchanting a powerful mind. Now, Loki also tells us this, but we'll get to all of the good shit a little bit later. Now, Renslayer shows up, thug style, ready to mop the floor with Loki and Sylvie like a Swiffer. We find out after the two alleged Lokis escaped that the pair were transported to Lamentis 1. Yeah, it's something that popped up in a few different of the Marvel comics. One of them, the first one actually being Annihilation Conquest Prologue number 1. Now, this is not super important, but the Lamentis Outworld was located at the very edge of Kree space. It was a series that took place in August 2007, of course, after the resurrection of the comic book era, and it definitely was a great storyline. I recommend you checking that out. I might break it down a little bit later in the series, but who knows. Anyway, Lamentis has a habitable moon called Lamentis 1 that hosts a sizable population, and in 2077, Lamentis broke up and its fragments crashed into the moon, killing everybody on it, showing us this event inside of Loki episode 3. Now, this was really cool because of that. Now, after gaining some solace, Sylvie and Loki argue about their motives. Sylvie says,
Well, you're full of it because you need me to get that thing recharged. That's the only reason you saved me out there.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, sure. That too.
And this is a sign of growth. We can obviously see that he wants to genuinely save people. So this is definitely a very revealing section of the story. So pay attention, because we about to dive. Loki once again calls Sylvie a variant to her face while wearing variant gear from TVA. Always funny as fuck. She reminds him she's not him. Now that gets a little bit more nuanced in the simple fact that technically Sylvie isn't him. And I'm gonna go ahead and break down exactly why now. Sylvie was first created by Paul Cornell in 2009 for Dark Reign Young Avengers. Yeah. Now Sylvie Lushton's origin came to fruition moving towards the end of Dark Avengers. During the Thor disassembled, when Thor rebuilt Asgard in Oklahoma during the time Loki stole the body for Sif. Now I mentioned this way back in episode maybe 2. And we find out that Lady Loki had set it up the entire time. So from the start, Sylvie was meant to be a vessel for a Lady Loki to possess. So it wasn't like I was wrong in my theory back in episode 2 or episode 3 it might have been, but also I was right, man. Sylvie is Lady Loki and Lady Loki is Sylvie, vice versa. Now it became a beef a little bit later in Sylvie's storyline when the TVA eventually start to hunt for her, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit more about that when it comes down to my prediction on how it's gonna move forward and how we're about to slide right into the multiverse of madness. Give me a second, I'm gonna jump into that. But anyway, let's continue into the story from episode. Now Sylvie gets blasted out the door from a nearby wave, Kamehameha style. Boom, shot her right out the doorway. And meanwhile, Loki dips in his bag of tricks only to suffer the same fate. Now we come to find out there is a settler there who is content with keeping her home and keeping these two, what she calls devils, away. Now when she says devils, that only leads me to think one motherfucking thing. Yeah, Mephisto. But I'm gonna stop talking shit because we know it's not Mephisto. Anyway, this was, for the most part, a filler type episode. Just something to give us a little backstory on Sylvie, who she is, and how she's gonna play a role. I can see her possibly dying by the end of this show. But if they're going to use her like they used her in the comics, which I really didn't fully explain, which I might do another episode. But if they do her storyline like they do her storyline in the comics in the MCU, then I mean we might see a lot more from her. But other than that, if they planned on killing her story and not really taking it all the way comic style, then we might not ever see her again, because later down the line we find out that there's a whole plot line with her and the Young Masters and a lot more. So tune in, Potheads Love Movies. We can talk a lot more about how these events are supposed to take place. You gotta let me know in the comments though. Do you think I'm spot on with my theory, or do you think maybe I'm off? I also have another prediction that just may give away some good motherfucking jewels. Stick around.